Well, hello, this is Mike Koenigs, and welcome to 2021 in virtual reality. Well, not exactly a virtual reality. This episode is all about the post-pandemic opportunity and crisis and what you're going to do about it. This is Mike Koenigs. I'm here doing a solo episode this time. Dan Sullivan is taking his end-of-year break, and I'm going to just get right into it right now. First of all, what is this all about? Well, you can see here that the name of the episode is Your Business Prepared for the Post-Pandemic Crash and Crisis? 10 Post-Pandemic Growth Strategies to Make 2021 Your Most Profitable Year Yet. And the other thing that is very important about this episode is it is very, very visual. So if you are listening to it, one thing, I will describe everything that's on screen, but if you care to, I would highly recommend that you head over to capabilityamplifier.com/2021, and you'll be able to visually see this episode streaming on YouTube. I've got lots of props, lots of things to talk about this time, and I'm super excited about it as well. So before I get into the meat of it, what I will tell you is this has been a crazy year for lots and lots of people. I don't need to repeat what you already hear, watch in social media and from our friends. I'd like to look at the positive side. There's a ton of businesses that have done exceptionally well, a ton of people that have done exceptionally well during this incredible, unprecedented pandemic. And Dan and I talk a lot about, future focus. What can you do right now? And that's really what this episode is all about. I wanted to start things off on the right foot, something that would be happy and also positive, but also strategically valuable for you. So I'm going to just dive into it right now and make my first statement, which is this: the largest wealth transfer in human history is happening right now. And evidence can be seen when you take a look at what happened not long ago. And Dan talks about this frequently. By the way, I got this information that I'm showing on screen right now, which is U.S. e-commerce penetration from Scott Galloway, Professor Scott Galloway. I think he's really an amazing guy. But he talked about in just 8 weeks, we went from, and if you go back in time, let's say, to 2009 or so, e-commerce represented about 6% of all retail sales in the United States. Now, that increased about 1% a year. However, last year, right when the pandemic struck, inside of 8 weeks, we went from right around 16% to 27%. Okay. Now, why is this important? Why am I showing this to you? Well, I think it's important simply because one of the things that Dan and I talk about in detail, and he did a special episode for Strategic Coach clients called Zoom Ahead series. And from his perspective, the world and business shot ahead about 5 years due to the usage of Zoom. We had no choice. Didn't have travel, didn't have air travel, hotel industry, doing events. Everything crashed and burned, and those who changed up and switched up have done very, very well. Those who didn't, obviously, are struggling to survive. But the advancement in mindset thinking about what has value shifted dramatically, and that's a huge part of the preparation for the post-pandemic chaos, crisis, and opportunity in this episode. Now, here's another thing that I think is important to look at, and that is the 6 largest U.S. sectors by revenue. And this is in billions, but you've got hospitals, health and medical insurance, drug, cosmetic, toiletries, new car dealers, life insurance and annuities, and education. So again, why is this important? Well, I'm a big believer in find opportunities inside the cracks of where the money is as an entrepreneur. Where are the opportunities? And what can we focus in on? I think this is interesting and representative of what to look at. We obviously know that anything in healthcare, there's huge opportunities there. I didn't even think about cars, but fascinating. life insurance, annuities. All these are huge opportunities for big tech to come and completely disrupt. You can look at Amazon to be doing that in the near future. But again, a lot of what I'm going to be talking about today, I think, has to do with where do you find opportunities in any industry, in any business, anywhere in the world. This isn't simply United States centric. So I think the net here is the world zoomed ahead and is digitized, virtualized, dematerialized forever. Looking at real estate, retail, travel, completely changed. International opportunities for anyone. I've got a couple case studies that I'll talk about. I believe that the perception of virtual is the same or as in person. I'll talk more about that with a simple case study. Those who don't adapt either will perish or are perishing. And all of what was going on, I think, during the pandemic was inevitable in any way. And what I mean by that is specifically, if you take a look at what's been going on worldwide, yes, there's lots of opportunities that are always going on, but we have gotten into the habit of being complacent or just habitual of doing what's convenient and using products and services that may or may not make sense. But the pandemic stopped that. It caused us to change our behavior and our thinking and what we value. And I think that was inevitable, but it's going to continue to pass on when we start returning back to normal. And again, there are so many opportunities that can be found inside the chaos. And that's what I am actually very, very excited for. So the other thing that is important to think about is we've been transitioning from a doing economy and a knowing economy to a being economy. And what do I mean by that? Well, if you think about it, when we start out our lives, we do things for money. We trade time for money effectively. We gain leverage when we are in a knowledge-based economy. But being in a being economy has to do with creating powerful, valuable preeminence, elevated brands, and also being able to get paid simply for who we are or who our brand is. I see this as being interchangeable, whether you are a corporate brand or you are an individual or a guru brand or a mixture of both. Okay. And this is another important thing to think about. I got this from Charlie Munger. It's people tend to accumulate large mental holdings of fixed conclusions and attitudes that are not often re-examined or changed, even though there's plenty of good evidence that they're wrong. Okay. So if there's anything else that the pandemic taught us, is if you're attached to any particular belief system that simply isn't true, your reality got shaken to the core. And I won't pick on politics or social media as evidence of that, or also the lack of trust in traditionally held institutions that we really got to push to their limits. Again, through the entrepreneur's eyes, I say, where are the opportunities inside of this chaos and confusion? How can I add value and serve and provide more value? And that's what I think being a great entrepreneur at this point in time in life is all about. And I wanted to insert a little funny here, but I had one little tip to drop in. This actually came from a strategic coach meeting where one of the attendees, his name showed up as being Farts. And I did a little bit of digging and it turned out, well, his 8-year-old boy thought it would be pretty funny. So quick tip, don't let your kids access your business laptop. And it took a little while for that to get found, but it sure was funny for a couple of minutes. And again, when we live in Zoomtopia, life gets crazy, right? All right. So I'll just begin with the 10 post-pandemic growth strategies. These, again, have come from a variety of case studies, observations, thoughts, and musings that I've been having for a while. So the first one is crafting a pandemic-proof offer. So I'm going to use an example here. Someone I've known for quite some time, Tony Robbins, who is a perfect example. The video that's on screen right now is something I shot from my phone a few years ago. I brought my son to a UPW event. There were 16,000 people in the audience jumping up and down, connecting. And this was sort of like the celebrity area. I'd contacted Tony and said, hey, I'm bringing my 14-year-old son, or 15-year-old son at the time. Do you think you can hook me up with some seats? He put us right in the front row, which was awesome. And I share that with you because something that I talked about with Tony years ago is the notion of virtualizing his business. And he said, no way, it'll never happen. This is all about live. It's all about connection and being physical, et cetera, et cetera. Well, when the pandemic hit, it hit their organization and anyone doing events especially hard. And here's what happened. It's pretty interesting. Variety of things occurred, but Tony ended up moving to what is basically a Zoom-based delivery. Here is him standing in front of a whole bunch of screens, turning, and they basically made almost a 360-degree stadium that he stands inside of, and he can see people who are in the audience. And they wired together lots and lots of machines to make this happen. This is a lot of effort, millions of dollars invested, but they ended up creating a very, very kinesthetic experience for attendees. In this picture, you can see a huge rack and row of, I don't know exactly how many are visible, but he had tens of thousands of attendees at UPW, which is the largest attendance ever, okay? And, people were jumping up and down, interacting, engaging, and they found some really clever ways to engage the audience, interact with them, and connect. And I think this is a great example because everyone that I know who had used live events or had a guru-based business who switched over and adapted and tried to figure out a better way to connect, they ended up making more money, having higher net profits, and their clients and customers felt that they had a greater degree of connection and rapport with whoever was doing the events, something that, of course, is very difficult to do in any kind of an event. Now, I'll give you a little case study. This is a set of clients that Marisa Brassfield and I have that are in the business of doing interior design. And it's called Social Supply. And what they do is they create environments for restaurants. They did a lot of event work, also offices. And of course, the pandemic affected them. They also worked with schools. So here's what's interesting and what happened. We met with them, Marisa and I, and talked about, what's possible. And one of the things that we found out is that they really, really like working with business owners and entrepreneurs. And something that they had been doing more and more of is building custom office environments, specifically home offices. So in their case, the pandemic-proof offer was to start focusing on crafting and creating hyper-productive home offices, all right? And as they would say, we create unapologetically original environments for hyper-productive home offices. And they focused their energy now on CEOs, founders, and owners. And Jessica, it's a husband-wife team primarily, Jessica and Ryan. Jessica loves working with high-performance female entrepreneurs. So that's what they're doing. And I will insert a shameless plug here. One of the things that they also do is the ergonomics and storage. And if you are currently looking at, or you've got, if you're like any business owner, you suddenly had to work in a home office environment or get clamped down significantly in your office space, you know how important it is to have something that's brand representative, ergonomic, highly functioning, and of course, it's got to look good on video. So that's exactly what they do. And I'm shamelessly plugging them right now because they're really good people. Their website is socialsupplydesign.com. And if you want to, just send an email to hello@socialsupplydesign.com. If you want to get in touch with them, good people with a great product, and they're all about helping business owners. And I know that's what this podcast is all about. So next, Strategic Coach. Now, I've been working with, my team and I have been working with Strategic Coach on their sales and marketing and process, but they too, if you would have talked to Dan and Babs a month before the pandemic, they'd be like, this is all about connecting. It's about relationship. It's about. And the truth of the matter is, boom, pandemic strikes. They embrace Zoom right away, start delivering. And as a strategic coach member, all of us know that suddenly they over-delivered on the digital experience, but also we ended up being able to connect more. You ended up meeting with and connecting with people that you might not normally have sat down with, because the law of familiarity, you sit with people at the meetings that you normally would, but also our breakouts. It's a lot easier to break out. And of course, none of us have to get on a plane. Now, of course, there's something fantastic about being able to attend a physical live event at Strategic Coach and press the flesh, as the old saying goes. But the amount of engagement, interactivity, and work you're able to get done with less wear and tear on your body is something significant. And as a result of that, Strategic Coach adapted, and they went so far as to create a virtual offering now, which meets 6 times a year instead of the usual quarterly. So fantastic experience. So here's a summary of what I believe is important for a pandemic-proof offer. Now, first of all, you want to elevate what you already do and turn that into a big ticket offer that is focused on an audience with money, with more money. In other words, you want to create a higher priced product. And of course, finding ways to virtualize, digitize, and dematerialize or support that. Now, the reason I shared the Jessica and Ryan story is because here they are in a physical delivery business, and they thought about how to support virtualization, digitization, dematerialization, right? So where can you find that opportunity inside here, either directly delivering that way or supporting something? Next is crafting an amazing story that's tied to your brand that articulates your product experience with social proof. Now, one of the things that I will pop into this episode, this show, is a new marketing piece that I did for Strategic Coach. And what it is, it's a mini commercial, but I call it a day in the life of. And what I think is really important, what I've noticed is business owners in general are not great at telling a brand representative short story that's intended to speak directly to the target audience and cause them to raise their hands and say, I'm in, but also a story that can be passed along to clients and customers to generate referral business, or for the salespeople to be more articulate and say more in the shortest period of time. So in this particular instance, we've got a 5-minute video that articulates the product experience with social proof. And again, I'll play that inside this episode shortly. And then the other thing is making sure that you and your brand is properly elevated with authority and status using content marketing. And I will dig into that in greater detail, but you have got to be easy to find, especially in the world of the non-physical, okay? And then also being able to be connectable through one or more channels to bring them in. In other words, and I'll get into a couple examples of those, and also something that's brand new that I'm really excited about. Actually, several that are brand new I'm really excited about. I wore those VR goggles for a reason. But in this day and age, you've got to be really effective at more than one strategy to bring in customers. And I had a number of clients that we worked with this past year whose businesses completely failed because they were 100% dependent on going to events to meet potential clients or speaking at events to get clients. Suddenly, boom, the rug's pulled out from underneath them. What are you going to do? And again, this is not, in my opinion, going to be the last of the pandemics. The last thing you want to do right now is get lazy and get complacent, because those who weren't complacent were the ones who ended up being successful. So next, strategy number 2 is going narrow, deep, and expensive. I already talked about the expensive part, but I'm going to give you an example of someone that we worked with this year. Really interesting guy. His name is Justin Donald. I met him at a short trip a little over a year ago, and really impressed with his ability to generate income. Basically, he called himself a cash flow investor, which basically means he generates income by investing and generating enough cash flow and passive income to more than cover his lifestyle, which ultimately we coined him the lifestyle investor, and we trademarked that as well, lifestyle investor and lifestyle investing. But for him, we wound up crafting a $250,000 offer and then a $50,000 mastermind that's geared and focused around this very topic. In other words, the 10 commandments of lifestyle investing. Produced a podcast, also a book that we wound up publishing through another strategic coach member, Carrie Oberbrunner. And the net here is he's got a business that produced over $1 million in 8 months from scratch, meaning zero platform, no website, no social media, no content prior to this. And now he's at a space where, here, I'll show you on screen and I'll describe it if you're listening. So he's got a $250,000 offer to work with him one-on-one, a $50,000 a year mastermind. As I mentioned, produced over $1 million in just under 8 months. He's got a book, a publisher, a podcast, and also a product in the $400, $500 range. I believe that this coming year, this business is going to produce around $3 to $4 million with no employees. He requires no physical interaction or delivery, super high net profit, but everything he does elevates everything else he's doing. Plus, he's creating intellectual property that can be licensed or sold in the future as well. So the point of this is it was designed from the very beginning to be a pandemic-proof offer and something that can live and exist in any world, any country, any industry, anywhere in the world. There's another example. This is another member of Strategic Coach. His name is Ninad Tipnis. Now, historically, his primary focus is as an architect, but we rebranded him in what we call a category of one into a living workspace creator. So his offer shifted from around $75,000 to $100,000 to $1 million, and created an ambassador referral program, which is his channel, his mechanism for reaching out to clients through billionaire connections that he had through EO. And by the way, Ninad lives in Mumbai. So why is this important? Well, for us, a full 100% overseas international client, and we were able to fulfill and deliver 100%. And he can do the same exact thing. Now, his target audience is in Jordan, Bahrain, but Dubai, in the Middle East primarily. And there's a variety of reasons for this. But the net is, for Ninad, one of the activities we did was to not only tell his story, craft that category of one, but also figure out what's the most effective way to get new clients. And it's not going to be through broadcasting, but it's going to be through deep, meaningful connections with, in his case, people who already have relationships with these ideal clients. And I'll give you more examples as we move on. Next one is Zoom It Up. Now, we've already touched on that. I showed you some examples, but it's my opinion that if you are not already selling all of your products and services using interactive Zoom meetings or Microsoft meetings or Skype or whatever it is, you're missing out. What we've noticed is people who use a process and a system frequently increase their sales around 2x. And if there's a little bit of strategy behind how you do it, you'll find that not only are your conversions significantly higher, but you're also going to find that the time it takes to enroll someone is significantly shorter. All right. So let me show you an example. And that screen you were seeing just a moment ago, I'll go back to it so you can see it full screen, is what our sales screen looks like. And I'll go through step by step what that looks like. And this is something that we actually went through step by step in the Zoom into the Future meeting with Dan through Strategic Coach. So the first thing is I use a tool called Otter, OTTER, and you can get a free trial. I've got that on screen right now of this for 500 minutes a month. But what the first thing I say when I talk to someone is, hey, if you'd like, I'd be happy to record and transcribe our conversation in real time for you. That way, you don't have to take such detailed notes. And in case you have a big breakthrough in our conversation, you don't have to worry about remembering all the details. I've never had anyone say no. So again, you can get a free trial of Otter if you're not using it already, which is both an app and a web-based system at mrbz.com/otter, OTTER. Next, I ask, hey, what is your mobile number? I will text you a link to that Otter link, that conversation in the transcript right now. Never had anyone say no because they're getting something of value. So copy, paste, send, boom, there's that conversation. Next, I have a step-by-step process. I always follow a script, even though I've done this for years, step-by-step on the questions I ask, the process I follow, and take detailed notes. I happen to use Google Docs for this. We also have a CRM called Pipedrive that we store our data in. And then there's also a process. Now, in the case of Strategic Coach, we ended up crafting and creating a sales manual to improve and increase the sales. That gets followed. But what's key is following a system and a process. So summary of this is sell and deliver wherever possible with Zoom and video. It lowers your costs. In my experience, the perception of live versus virtual is zero in terms of no one's going to say, I want it for less, as long as you don't focus on that. The biggest players that I know, which are multitudes of them, they increase their revenue, their sales, their satisfaction, and QOL, which stands for quality of life. And also being able to work internationally, go international, being able to fulfill and deliver, your opportunity to build greater, deeper connection internationally is significantly higher. All right. And the other thing is there's a rule I have for consistency. So I've got an idea for you for if you have salespeople, you have a team member, or if you ever struggle with an environment that is not brand representative. This is a system. If you're watching this, you can see that's Marisa Brassfield in front of a branded sign with our logo, Superpower Accelerator, on one side, and a Hollywood sign on the other. She lives really close to the Hollywood sign. And growing up in college, her nickname was Hollywood. So here she is. So on one side of this stand is the Hollywood Hills with the sign and the logo. On the other side is a heavily branded Superpower Accelerator with our colors. But this tool is from a company called Anyvoo, ANYVOO. We've actually set up a deal where you get free shipping from them. And I have a little link in here. I'm going to tell you what it is. It's at mrbz.com/BKG. So mrbz.com/BKG. And you can get this. You can customize it. You basically design the thing on you upload a picture, one for the front, one for the back, and they send you a really nice sign and a stand. And it's this nice stretchy material that's always brand representative. And again, why is this so important? Well, it's because if you have a team and they are not in front of your product logo and your business logo and identity, or not working in a completely brand congruent environment, I think you're losing out, you're missing out. This reflects on your professionalism. And I can't believe how many business leaders, their employees are working in complete dumps, and it's reflecting on you. And I think your perception of value is going to lower dramatically. It will increase dramatically if you have this product, okay? So I think it's a great product. Next up, create and borrow super credibility. Now, where did this come from? Well, credit where credit is due. Peter Diamandis, also a Strategic Coach member, who wrote the books Bold and Abundance. He came up with this notion back when he started X Prize. And basically what he did is he got a bunch of astronauts to show up. He started connecting with big players, including Google, the Google founders, ended up going out and communicating to Richard Branson with this big, bold idea. But by bringing these people on stage with him, it elevated his credibility. Right now, in the world of the digital and the virtualized, it is really important that your credibility is boosted dramatically as well. So you want to create and borrow super credibility. Now, a couple ways that I've been doing it and also helping our clients is, and point one is, if you can't be found on Google, immediately you're at a huge disadvantage. So that's the first thing is, if you and your business and your name isn't showing up in Google and it isn't positive, boy, have you got some work to do. Really important. I believe right now content marketing is critical. I'll give you some good examples of that in a moment. It generates leads and credibility. And, our whole business model, the Superpower Accelerator, this is in a way kind of a shameless plug, but it's the truth. We're in the amplify and elevate credibility and prestige business. So if you see that little image in the top right, that's an article I wrote recently for Entrepreneur Magazine, and it's called Here's How You Can Charge $500,000 for Your Services. Okay. Now, this particular piece was both a podcast interview, part of Capability Amplifier. It was also, so it was an episode on the podcast. It was converted into an article, and it also was turned into a webinar masterclass that I ended up promoting. So all of them together are out on the internet now in a variety of forms, both audio, video, and quote unquote print, because it's in Entrepreneur Magazine. Ended up doing a variation of this also for Forbes. So you can repurpose and reuse all the content you're creating. I think it's very important that you partner up either with someone who is a writer for a major publication, or you become a writer. And there are a variety of services available to do this, so you can get high Google ranking. That's one nice thing about Entrepreneur. Another one we write for, which is Influencive and Forbes. When we publish within 3 hours, those articles are ranked in the top 10 on Google, and they stay there for a long, long time. Now, in this particular case, that article you see, here's how you can charge $500,000 for your services, that article produced a lead and a client in a day. Okay, and it turned out when I told the story earlier about Jessica and Ryan, that's where they came from. They read that article, saw a couple of my videos, and boom, applied and became a client. So another person who is incredible at super credibility is Tim Ferriss. When he came out with his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, boy, that's going back. Man, I'm trying to think of the year it came out in. It must have been 2004-ish, 2003, 2004. He was actually one of my first clients when I produced one of my first information products. So before he took off. But how did he take off? Here's what happened. He befriended around 100 of the top writers for the major magazines, built rapport with them, and gave them a story. And they're the ones who went out and built his super credibility for him. And he's continued to do that over and over again. And one of the things that happened, of course, when he created his podcast is boom. Now he's interviewing all sorts of incredible people. He just had Jerry Seinfeld on, lots of comedians, lots of big players, both from Silicon Valley and elsewhere. But Tim is one of these guys who's really, really done an amazing job of super credibility. And when you look at it with Capability Amplifier, this podcast, Dan and I happen to work together really, really well. But truth be told, Dan elevates me, and I'm good for his thinking. It's sort of like I provide value on both sides, access to a certain degree of marketing and technology. And that was the intent of Capability Amplifier in the first place. I have a second podcast called The Big Leap that I do with Gay Hendricks, another 76-year-old brilliant genius. He's written over 50 books, including the book, The Big Leap, which is recommended by lots and lots of schools for getting past your upper limits challenges. But he's another brilliant, fascinating, interesting guy. And we've managed to get some really great guests on that podcast as well. Another example is a little over a year ago, I was on a television show that was produced by Entrepreneur Magazine called Elevator Pitch. It's basically Shark Tank with a heart, but that provided great credibility. It was broadcast on a bunch of cable networks. And I ended up getting clients and opportunities as a result of that. And of course, writing for Forbes magazine has helped dramatically as well. There are paid programs available with several different publications that you can enroll in, giving you the ability to write on a regular basis. So now in my particular case, I also write for Entrepreneur Magazine, which has also helped elevate my status as well and provide great content marketing. So the whole point of this is, if you don't have time to do it, pay someone to do it for you, but create content, get it out there, tell your story, share transformational stories about your clients and customers. That is really, really important. All right, next up. Never trust a platform ever. Email still rules. Well, what do I mean by this? Well, I'll tell you, okay? First of all, Facebook is evil, so is Google, and you must own and control your lists. I started talking about this many, many years ago when Facebook and Google and all the original platforms started coming out, and they wanted you to create content that would keep people on their platforms all the time. They still do, okay? Because you are the product. The more time you spend on there, it's like the news, right? The more people that are fixated on CNN and MSNBC and Fox, the more ads they sell. Truth of the matter is, none of that's good for you. And so I still use Facebook, I still use Google, but I'm filtered from using it. But you got to create content and drive people off the platform into your own list. That's really the point of it. And still to this day, email reigns for revenue. It's important to be building that constantly. And these days, it's hard, but it's not that hard. I'll share a couple examples as we move forward. Now, one thing that we're heavily invested in is cold email. I'll show you some examples of what that is and what it means in a moment. So, for example, this is a database. There's a variety of database services. One of them is called Apollo.io. Another one's called Icy Leads. Another one's called Identified, AI and the word identified. And what you can do is inside these services, what they have are usually a couple 100 million names inside it. In general, they're pretty good. They're usually, depending on the quality of the service and how much it costs you, you're going to spend maybe 100 or 200 or 300 bucks a month, and they're about 85% accurate, what we call good enough. And you can search for business types, people in specific zip codes in certain industries. You can look up businesses with a certain amount of revenue. And then what you do is craft a cold email. Now, if you're looking at my screen, this is an email that I've created that is cold and hyper personalized. So it's me holding a Starbucks coffee cup, two of them actually. One has your name on it, one has my name on it. And so imagine receiving a highly personalized email where the sender knows a lot about you and says some great stuff and then makes some kind of an offer to provide value with no risk, or just a connection piece. That's effectively what this is. Cold email is like using direct mail. Some would call it spam, but because it's so hyper personalized, it doesn't get seen as that. And you're gathering data from, what is a service. The bottom line is, when it's done right, not in an abusive way, it is a fantastic way to create connections and that lead to a very high ticket offer in a sale. So right now we're doing a lot of work with cold email. I'm a big believer in it, especially, again, getting away from the big platforms. They are never to be trusted ever again. And I think it's safe to say that you're going to see Google and Facebook are going to get broken up by the government because they're doing naughty stuff. Next one. This one, you've already seen evidence of that, but podcast to get clients and rapidly create content. I've already shared this with you. We're currently doing 2 podcasts, about to launch a third, in fact, which we're going to call the Superpower Accelerator, where we talk to business leaders and business owners. Let me explain how you use podcasts right now to get clients and rapidly create content. So one of them is a story about a client that I worked with years ago. His name's John Cody, and he, for quite some time, was a airline pilot. Wanted to get off the road, and he wrote a book about mobile text marketing. And what he ended up doing is using the book to get speaking opportunities where he'd speak, give away his book, and then he'd close consulting deals. Now he started focusing on doctors and doing mobile text and social media marketing for them. But he was speaking at an event that was all about medical tourism. Now, he did a little research. It turned out there was no podcast about medical tourism or for medical tourism. So what he did is he started a podcast and he interviewed doctors and patients about medical tourism, in this case, hospitals and doctors that did it and patients who had gone through it. So what happened is pretty incredible. So first of all, when he launched his podcast, he recorded a bunch of episodes with some well-known doctors, and that podcast debuted #1 at launch day and also showed up on New and Noteworthy, which got him some subscribers. But he also took all of the episodes, edited them, and created a book called Healthcare Elsewhere, which also happened to be the name of the podcast. He did a product launch for that, but very, very rapidly, what happened is he became known as one of the leading experts in the medical tourism industry. And the screen that I just popped up right now is a message he got from someone who connected with him. The bottom line is he got called by the government of Belize, and they asked him if he would be an advisor to the country and an entire town dedicated to medical tourism in Belize, of course, as an American. So it wound up being a substantial deal. He got lots and lots of other super credibility as a result of this. And of course, it was great for his income as well. So the bottom line and the point of this story is the more interviews you do, it exposes you to some great thinkers, and it opens up a conversation with that individual for a collaboration or a business relationship, okay? And I had already told you that in our case, what Dan and I do is we take our episodes, we turn them into content, we get them distributed all over the place. It ends up generating business for both a strategic coach and for me. So it's a great collaboration. But the secret then to doing this is, first of all, I'm not suggesting that you necessarily start a podcast, but I am suggesting that you get on as many podcasts as possible. There are booking services for this to get on podcasts. So you can certainly reach out to me on Capability Amplifier for some of the top ones that are out there that I've worked with. So getting on podcasts is a credibility builder, helps you create content marketing. I do tell a lot of our clients that they should start a podcast, especially if they want to build a brand around themselves, convert the podcast content into articles. And there's also something new that just came out that I'm actually quite excited about. And it's something called Clubhouse. It's an app that currently runs only on the iPhone. It's podcasting meets talk radio. It's both a platform and a community, and you might hear it talking in the background in just a moment. I think it's got huge potential. So if you hear something in the background talking, that's what it is. If you don't, that's fine. But not only does it have huge potential, but you get to meet people in real time. You can contribute by raising your hand. In other words, people can call you in. There's zero entry. It's low tech, meaning you just hold your phone, you talk into it, and you can basically do like a talk radio show. And one of the things that they have is no recordings, so it creates a fear of missing out. So it's very much a live, real-time platform. And right now, it's only available on the iPhone. It's invite only, so you have to know someone who gets you on it. I've been getting on it. First of all, it's very, very addictive. It's like getting on a party line, and there's lots and lots of shows going on all the time. But it is a fantastic and smart way to build and grow an audience and meet with people and build an audience. And it also grabs your Instagram followers. So I think you're going to see more apps like this that are going to encourage more and more real-time content creation. Next, number 7, you want to who everything up and stop stepping in how pies. If you haven't seen it already, this amazing book called Who Not How by Dan Sullivan and Ben Hardy. Fantastic book, and it's really all about this idea of whoing yourself up. So couple quick nuggets about this. Number 1, and I call it stop stepping in how pies. If you are wondering how all the time, you get in a lot of trouble. So number 1, eliminate fixed expenses, digitize, virtualize, dematerialize. Stop asking how and ask who. Who can accomplish this? Create as many collaborations as you possibly can. And one of the things that I'd highly recommend you do, if you're not already a listener of the Big Leap podcast, go to bigleappodcast.com or look it up in iTunes, grab it. One of the things that I did with Gay Hendricks is we did an interview with Ben Hardy. I think it's one of the best interviews he's done so far about who, not how, and whoing things up and how to think. He really gets into the mindset, and we talk a lot about collaborations and how to create an elevated super credibility relationship with someone, but also get all of the how problems off your plate. So A, get the book, Who Not How. You can go to whonothow.com to do that. B, listen to that interview, but also what I've found that I'm involved in more than ever now, especially after reading the book, is I do a lot more creation of want ads, finding as many who's as possible and getting out from underneath the how, which is what bogs us down as quick starts and as business owners and entrepreneurs. And it's also enabled me to increase my knowledge dramatically, because the less time I'm spending in how space, the more in who space. By interviewing in them, talking to them, I'm learning so much more that's useful knowledge and replicable as well. All right, this is another big idea. It's invert. And I added prepare to go back to physical. But if you're not familiar with, if you haven't read Poor Charlie's Almanac, or it was a while ago, pick it up. It's by Charlie Munger, one of the greatest thinkers of all time. Now, of course, Charlie Munger is Buffett's business partner. One of the things that I've had the great fortune of doing, I did get to do it last year. I was actually going to lead a trip there, but the year before I went to the annual board meeting that Charlie and Warren do. Great experience, by the way. But back to this. One of the things that Charlie talks about is inversion and inverting. Now, I believe that events are going to come back. That's kind of a duh as soon as we're kind of done with this whole thing. And I know I've been talking about just the opposite, which is go physical, virtualize, digitize, dematerialize. But that really comes down to reinvent, and zig when everyone else is zagging and standing out and being different. And I think that is the most important lesson here. Yeah, you've heard it many, many times before. But I'm telling you, there's a nuance to this. The more time you spend thinking about inverting and zigging versus zagging, and dive into as much of Charlie Munger's content as you can, whether you're a YouTube fan, love audiobooks, or reading real books. Dig into his stuff. Incredibly wise guy, and he's all about systemic thinking. And I've spent an enormous amount of time over the past year digesting Charlie's work, and I'm absolutely hooked. All right, number 9, this is just an opinion. And as of right now, when I'm recording this, Bitcoin's reached just shy of $35,000. And when the pandemic hit, it was down to 37, okay? So talk about a 10x. But I will tell you an interesting story. First of all, if you're poo-pooing cryptocurrency, I get it. I totally get it. But here's what's going on right now that's worth paying attention to. First of all, PayPal and Stripe, they're supporting it this year. Big players, big investors are moving in more and more. The benefit of using crypto and Bitcoin is there are almost zero fees. It can work internationally. You don't have to deal with getting screwed by the credit card processors. It's easy. You can use a couple services. Coinbase.com, get on that if you're not already. Bitcoin.com is a digital wallet. And I've got a little sign up link. I know they give you some freebies when you use this link. It's mrbz.com/Coinbase. But the process of accepting it, if you haven't accepted it before, is super simple. Like on my website, I'll give you the website so you can check it out. If you go to paidforlife.com/jumpstart, you'll see it. There's a QR code. There's also like a string of letters. Accepting Bitcoin is as easy as send someone either the string of letters, which they can copy paste into their Bitcoin app, or scan it with their phone. It'll launch the app, and then you can do a transaction. Both of you get notified. It's secure, it's fast, and it's cheap. Okay? And you can convert Bitcoin into cash immediately if you want to, a variety of ways. But what I love about it, here's the best story. Earlier this year, I was working with a individual who was in Singapore. Turns out doing bank transfers, which is my preferred method for accepting money. I don't like using credit cards because poor, low value, and you don't get much for your money. I just hate paying the fees. I hate seeing a multiple six-figure expense on credit card fees for the year. Just sucks. I'd rather have all that money, right? So in this case, he said, "Will you take Bitcoin?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll take Bitcoin." I'd had it in the past, liquidated it, been up and down with my experience with it. But here's what happened. It was trading at about 10,000. And what I did, I left it alone. Well, it hit 30,000 last week. I sold it all, okay? 3x on money I received that sat around for less than 6 months, okay? Hell of an ROI, and buying a nice RV with that. So the net here is, I think it's here to stay. Doesn't matter what the skeptics say. Yeah, it's probably going to get regulated. Yeah. All the yes. I think if you want to do business internationally, it's easy to accept. It's easy to convert. You'll save yourself some money and start dabbling. All right, here's the next big one. The reason I started out today wearing the VR goggles today, this, by the way, is the Oculus 2. I believe investing in the next thing, the next Zoom. So Zoom is big right now, but the next Zoom is augmented reality, virtual reality. If you're not familiar with what specifically they are, virtual reality is where you wear a set of goggles like this, and they've got a screen built in. Really, they've got a computer built in. You can get the Oculus 2 for about $200 to $300, which is the latest. Very comfortable, high resolution, and you've got little controllers that you hold to navigate inside a virtual environment. It becomes super normal very quickly. Augmented reality, on the other hand, is where you wear a pair of glasses or you look through your phone and you can see stuff in the augmented space that you can't see in real life. Pokemon, for example, when that game went crazy, was augmented reality. People would walk around, they'd find these little Pokemon and they'd capture them through their phones and get points, but they're running around and actually getting exercise. Augmented reality means we're going to be wearing our glasses and you won't need a display screen. I think this is going to completely, radically change computer technology, how you engage and interact with the entire world, because everything can be enhanced in real time. And what this means for virtual reality is doing meetings is really fascinating, because you can be cast into a virtual environment, talk to people, but if they're further away in the virtual environment, they're softer, they're quieter. If they're closer, they're right next to you. So you can do groups, you can travel, you can set up all kinds of displays and look at people on virtual screens without the hardware expense, but also you don't have to travel. Your brain gets used to it really quickly. And so, as an example, one of the things that Gay Hendricks and I are doing this year is, so we've been doing Big Leap podcast. And there you can see, if you're watching this, you can see some of the visuals. This is from a service called Spatial. But you can create an environment. You can create a character, what they call an avatar, for yourself by simply taking a picture. It automatically gets applied onto a figure. And then you can engage and interact with people in these meetings. So This, if you're in commercial real estate, you definitely want to be looking at VR as an augmented service. But one of the things that we're about to do this year is we're actually going to be delivering an experience. We call it the Big Leap Year. It's kind of like a mastermind using VR. Everyone that applies is going to get goggles. We're going to send Oculus 2, and we'll be meeting in an environment that's super intimate, super connected, super immersive. And the question that I would ask you to think about is, how can you use it today? Now, in my opinion, knowing what I know right now, having dug into this and embraced it, my first impression with VR is, it's gamer toys. I got it. I started using it and I'm like, oh, I get it. Okay, this is a big deal. It's super meaningful. And I'm usually a first mover on everything. This is one that I kind of waited because it just was like, I don't know, right? But it's there. And you're going to see that people who embrace this, the sooner are going to get further faster. And I think your imagination is going to go wild, or get involved in a business group that's using it so you can immerse yourself with real business owners using it. And that's part of the reason why we're doing the Big Leap Year is we really want to show people how useful and meaningful this technology is. And if you want to learn more about it, I'm going to have a video and a page set up very, very shortly, but you can head over to bigleappodcast.com to get early bird access to learn more about the Big Leap experience using VR. All right. So I've got a couple of questions that I'm going to ask you right now. And if you have a pad, piece of paper, you got your notebook, your laptop, whatever it is, try answering these questions. I'm going to zip through them. If you're watching it, you can feel free to grab screenshots, or again, in the liner notes in the video, which is available again at capabilityamplifier.com/2021. I'll have all those inside the description copy of the YouTube, and of course the description copy that we're looking at right now in the podcast itself. So rate yourself on a scale 1 to 10. Number 1, do you have a newly packaged big ticket offer that's targeted at people and businesses with money, especially given the fact that post-pandemic, are you focusing on the right people? That's number 1. What's your market like? Number 2, are your customer relationships deep, narrow, and transformational, or transaction-based? And do you have social proof and testimonials? Now, remember earlier I told you that I was going to play the video that I did with and for Strategic Coach. I'm going to play that in a moment, and you'll understand why having social proof and testimonials is so important within that context. All right. So question number 3, are you focusing on your highest value clients and customers? And what I mean by that is, if you are focusing on your 20% and your 2% and your 0.2%, I think you're in the right place at the right time. I think wide and shallow is dangerous right now. Deep and narrow is the key to longevity, strength, and highest net profit. That's my opinion. Okay. And do you have a story that's tied to your brand that articulates your product and your product experience? Now, again, I'm going to show you an example of one of these, just so you've got something to sink your teeth into that I produced, but it's designed to overcome objections, to really articulate what the experience of the product is like. All right. Next, have you digitized, dematerialized, and virtualized you and your business? Okay. And are you using Zoom and video to enroll and close opportunities, or have you made that part of your business internally with your sales team, if you have a sales team? And are you and your brand properly elevated with authority and status with content marketing? Remember, super credibility, preeminence, being elevated. That is critically important. You have really got to be easy to find. And are you clear and focused on the best marketing channel to connect with your ideal audience? So through the lens that I filter things through these days, what we do is we think through the lens of market. In other words, who's your perfect audience? Model, what is your high ticket offering? And then third is the message. What's the story? What do people need to see or hear in order to raise their hands and say, yeah, I want that right now? Dan and I call it the civitas moment. It's the one word offer. And the fourth is media. In other words, what's the channel that message is going through to attract and communicate? It might be referrals. It might be events. It might be Facebook. It might be podcasts. Whatever it is, who cares? You got to be using that. Really, really understand it now more than ever before. So I'm going to give you one more big idea here, and that is the way I'm going to end this episode today is with the video that I produced for Strategic Coach. All right. But before I do that, if you've enjoyed this episode, it's solo. I put this together because it was meaningful to me and everyone that I'm talking to right now. But of course, subscribe to the podcast, certainly to the YouTube channel. If you've been watching this, please like it, please comment, please share it with your friends or someone you know who could benefit from this message. Quick little ditty about the video before I play that. And I've got one last message and then I'm going to send it off with that video. But first of all, this video you're about to see, it was designed to overcome objections, describe a day in the life of Strategic Coach, both the physical and the virtual. But it's a result of having interviewed. I know over 100 members of Strategic Coach. Hopefully, you're one of the listeners or viewers right now. And when we talk, I listen to why you're in it, what you benefit, what's the best part about it, but also what may have prevented you from saying yes in the first place. I talked to the majority of the salespeople as well as a lot of the senior management over at Strategic Coach. A lot of people don't know that the organization is actually quite large, over 150 people. So as a result of that, and then studying the databases and analyzing it, knowing the psychographic, demographic, the locations, what my team and I set out to do was to craft a short story that would be easy to refer, easy to share by salespeople, by clients and customers, also viewable and watchable, but also be a perfect follow-up tool for someone who might not know if they're ready yet, okay? So, and also something to share with the skeptical spouse or business partner, which is, hey, I want to join this group. And it's going to cost money and it's an investment, right? So that's what this video is all about. It's designed to do all that. Now, it turns out we're using Mike's story, my story inside there as the social proof. But the script was designed to be able to plop in another member, another bit of social proof. Okay. So hopefully you'll enjoy it just for the sake of watching it and hearing it. And also, if you're not a member, maybe you'll raise your hand and go, hell yeah, this looks pretty awesome. Or if you're already in it, I'd love to hear what you have to say. Know that this is just the third draft. It's not the final yet. We're still making a couple tweaks, but I'd love to know what you think. And here's how I'm going to end today before I pass it along to that video. If you are intrigued by any of the things that I talked about today in this episode, and you want to get yourself pandemic proof or take advantage of the chaos and opportunity that's taking place or any of these strategies, you can learn more about working with my team and I. And we've got a little program. It's called Jumpstart. It's a way for us to work for a half a day, kind of get your feet wet with us. And you can learn more. That information's on the screen right now. It's at paidforlife.com/jumpstart. There's a phone number, which is 858-412-0858, or send me an email at vip@paidforlife.com. So lots of folks who are in Strategic Coach, Genius Network, Abundance 360, we've worked with them. My team and I, we certainly love to work with you too. So that is the shameless plug of the day. Now, what I'm going to do as I wrap up this episode is play the video for you from Strategic Coach, a day in the life of. Love to hear your thoughts, opinions, comments. So thank you so much for a great episode. If you've enjoyed this again, please leave a comment, send me a message. I get all of them. Thank you for being a listener, viewer, and a subscriber of capability amplifier. My name is Mike Koenigs, and I love creating content for you. So have yourself an excellent, absolutely fantastic 2021. If you're watching this video, it's because you want to know more about Strategic Coach and what it's like to be a Strategic Coach member. I'm going to take you behind the scenes and show you it's unlike any other business coaching or mastermind. My name is Mike Koenigs. I live in San Diego. I was raised in a small farm community in Minnesota and spent 30 years of my life as a serial entrepreneur. I've been a Strategic Coach member for 7 years, and I made this video because I'm a client and an advocate. Before you see what you get and what it's like to be a member, the reason why I almost didn't join the program is because I was too busy. I thought my interruptions would break my business if I stepped away, and the idea of travel wasn't appealing. Being gone meant lost productivity for my team, and that meant lost income. And I was skeptical any coaching program could give me substantial results because I had been in so many other ones that didn't produce, or the people in it weren't committed to the same values. Now, since I've been in coach, I've sold 3 businesses, 2 software companies, and the last was a services and training organization. And like any other entrepreneur, I started another one. But this new company is completely different because it was designed from the ground up to adhere to these principles. But what's really important is my 20-year marriage with my wife, Vivian. It's better now than it's ever been, and my son, Zach, who just graduated from high school, is off to college, and I know who he is, and he knows me. And our home life is stable and happy, and we've achieved what the founder, Dan Sullivan, calls the 4 freedoms of time, money, purpose, and relationship, or at least we're on that journey together, and it is always getting better. But it wasn't always that way, and it hasn't been easy. My first business cost me a marriage, and over the last 20 years, I can think of 3 times my current marriage almost failed because I wasn't present, I was always busy and constantly distracted. My high-stress entrepreneurial lifestyle almost cost me my life. 8 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 3A colorectal cancer. The good news is, I'm alive. But I also can't help but think that if I would have said yes to Strategic Coach sooner, I wouldn't have had to go through all this pain. And the truth is, I found out about Strategic Coach, and I met Dan Sullivan and Babs Smith over 15 years ago. But I hesitated and I waited. And along that time, a lot of disasters occurred that could have been eliminated or at least avoided. So I think ultimately that it's obvious every business owner needs a coach, just like every great athlete does. So let me share a bit about Strategic Coach. It's available virtually or in person, and it's for business owners, founders, and entrepreneurs of any business type anywhere in the world. In each meeting, you get engaging, interactive thinking tools and resources that help you gain new capabilities that increase the 4 freedoms I mentioned earlier. Freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose, and the 4 C's, which are commitment, courage, capability, and confidence. In every meeting, Dan and the team create brand new tools, and there's always something new, and the organization is constantly evolving and innovating. And when you go through the exercises, we break out into groups to share our distinctions with other entrepreneurs to expand our thinking and get creative crossover from multiple industries. And this is something that's really valuable and important. We all learn new things that wouldn't happen if we were all from the same industry, background, or culture. You meet 1 day in person every quarter, or in the virtual program 6 meetings a year. And between each meeting, you get additional one-on-one coaching, support, networking, and some other goodies. You also get access to an online training portal filled with resources, tools, and videos to expand your capabilities even more. There's a program for you no matter what the size or type of your business. You start with a signature program to learn the tools and get familiar with the systems and time and team management, and then move on to the 10X Ambition program and Free Zone to give you exponential growth. And along the way, You meet a network of smart, ambitious, collaborative business owners who become lifelong partners and friends. Some of them have been in the program since it began over 30 years ago. So here's what I know from my 30 plus years as a serial entrepreneur. Owning a business isn't easy. It can be lonely when you can't get support from friends and family about your inner game and external challenges. A strategic coach is the family you've been looking for. And I barely scratched the surface of everything you get. And if you're wondering why I made this video, it's because this organization and the community has given me and my family so much that I want to give back and also find additional right fit people whose lives can be transformed here. I've seen Strategic Coach work with so many others, and I'm certain that if you're a right fit person who's willing to raise your hand and say, I want help to become even better, both as a person and a business owner, this will work for you too, no matter what business industry or where you live. So if you ever get a chance to enroll in Strategic Coach, do it. It flat out works no matter where you are. My name is Mike Koenigs, and Strategic Coach changed my life.